With the global release of the OnePlus 10 Pro, OnePlus has shown that when it comes to making a phone with great performance at a competitive price point, they still got it in them. Looking at the big picture, there are some things about a OnePlus 10 Pro that might leave you confused, like why are there two different release periods for it? Or why are some models running ColorOS instead of oxygenos? Or perhaps, where is the non-Pro version? Well, the 10 Pro has already been released in China markets earlier in January, preloaded with ColorOS, while the rest of the world will be getting a 10 Pro running oxygenos in March, thus the differing dates. Sadly, for the 10 series, there won't be a non-Pro version releasing alongside the 10 Pro, so it's either go Pro or go home. Jokes aside, let's start with the unboxing experience. You get your usuals: the phones, instruction manuals, OnePlus stickers, an 80-watt charging adapter, and the classic OnePlus red cable. If you like the tall and sleek look of the previous OnePlus 9 Pro, then you won't be disappointed. The 10 Pro is all of that with a way larger camera bump and matte frosted glass for the volcanic black color that we have. There is also the emerald forest green version of the 10 Pro, which, in the words of OnePlus, was etched to create a finish that sparkles when viewed from different angles. But sadly, that version is only available in India, Europe, and North American markets. Back to the volcanic black version that we have. This phone is smooth, like really smooth, to the point that we are even afraid to use it without a case attached. Aside from that, you get your usual OnePlus alert slider along with the power and volume buttons on opposite sides at just the right height, even for smaller hands. Now for that design direction that may be a deal breaker to some people, the new camera layout. Back when the iPhone 11 introduced its triple camera bump, people said it looked like a stove. With this new design along with the matte texture of the 10 Pro, your phone will look more like a kitchen counter than ever before. You either like it or you don't. And of course, with such a standout camera layout, is the camera good? Continuing their collaboration with Hasselblad from the 9 series, the 10 Pro packs a 48-megapixel main camera, an 8-megapixel telephoto, along with a 50-megapixel ultra-wide with 150 degrees field of view. Yes, 150 degrees. You'll have some fun with the 150 degrees mode, which comprises normal 150 fields of view and a fisheye effect as well. Although it did seem weird that the mode was tucked away in the overflow menu of the camera app instead of being integrated into the photo tab, and you can't use the 150 degree field of view for video. As for the main camera, pitting it against the Pixel 6, the color on the 10 Pro turned out more vibrant, while the Pixel 6's colors were more true to life. In daylight shots, skies look way bluer and the 10 Pro saturates images with higher contrast to them, making the Pixel 6 photos seem duller in comparison. For human subjects, the 10 Pro tends to process the image slightly brighter with more saturation on the skin. It does, however, make the overall image softer. In low light conditions, it's possible but not great. We noticed that even with the night mode on the 10 Pro, didn't manage to preserve many of the details in low light compared to the Pixel 6. Without night mode, it's just processing galore, with the whole image looking extremely soft. There's also a very visible difference in color between the main and wide angle in low light, with a very apparent red cast over the photos from its wide angle. Under the right lighting conditions, the camera on the 10 Pro will produce an aesthetically pleasing image, but for low light, there is still much to improve. It is also equipped with a 32-megapixel selfie camera that, as far as the selfie camera goes, it's alright. For the videographers out there, the 10 Pro can support up to 8K at 30 frames per second, 4K up to 120 frames per second, and 1080p up to 240 frames per second. The video quality is not bad, but nothing spectacular either. Colors are less vibrant compared to the Pixel 6, and the Ultra Steady feature is available in 1080p for those that need it. The 10 Pro sports a 6.7-inch LTPO2 AMOLED display at 120Hz refresh rate, just your standard dynamic switching smoothness for your swipes and scrolls. Although there are some instances where the screen is static, the refresh rate stayed at 120Hz instead of adjusting. The screen also gets bright up to 1300 nits. For those that are outdoors a lot, you won't have to worry. Now, a good display must be accompanied by good sound for all your content consumption needs. Speakers are set up in your usual front and bottom placements with adequate loudness and quality. Don't set your expectations too high and you'll be fine. For all you traditional headphone jack users, the 10 Pro will accept third-party headphone dongles as they should. With all the hardware out of the way, let's start diving into the internals. The 10 Pro is powered by a new Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 SoC with an octa-core CPU along with the Adreno 730 for GPU. With a Geekbench score of 962 for single-core and 3216 for multi-core performances, it is well deserving of its position as a flagship phone. It also scored a good 9452 for its best loop in our 3D Mark wildlife stress test. But what do the numbers mean exactly? It means it will perform well in any game you throw at it, though our 10 Pro did start to feel toasty after gaming for a short while. Nothing unbearable. One thing that's an improvement over the previous 9 Pro is the bump from 4500 mAh to 5000 mAh battery. With the display set to 120Hz and Quad HD+, you'll surprisingly be able to get through the day with social media browsing and a bit of gaming, but your mileage may vary. Speaking of mileage, the 80-watt adapter included charges the 10 Pro from 0 to 60 in about 15 minutes and can give you a full charge in about 30 minutes. One little caveat about the adapter is that it runs off USB Type-A instead of C, which seemed kind of a step backwards, but then again, having the adapter even included in this box is a step back worth taking. Upon closer look at the adapter, you'll find what was originally labeled with Warp Charge in all previous OnePlus phones is now replaced with a Super VOOC branding. Now, if that sounds familiar to you, it's the branding for the fast charging technology used on Oppo phones. Not a good sign for all the OnePlus fans out there. Finally, the one thing that brings all of the hardware together is the oxygenos that the 10 Pro runs on, or rather, what's become of it. If you are a user of Oppo phones, you might find several familiar design elements that make you feel right at home. And if you are a user of OnePlus phones, you'll notice that it's slowly becoming more of a modified color OS rather than the customizable stock Android you knew from before. The OnePlus 10 Pro will go on pre-order in Singapore from 1st of April, exclusively in Lazada OnePlus official store at 1,299 Sing dollars for the 12 gigs of RAM and 256 gig storage option. For a company whose tagline is "Never Settle," this OnePlus 10 Pro seems to settle quite nicely in between the Oppo Reno 7 Pro and the Find X5 Pro with its competitive price point and high-end specs. If you're looking to upgrade or make the jump to Android, then the OnePlus 10 Pro is a pretty solid choice. That being said, if you are specifically considering the OnePlus for its brand, the 10 Pro is still a solid choice, although you might need to occasionally remind yourself that it's not an Oppo phone. Perhaps the news of OnePlus calling off the merger with Oppo will spell a return to its roots for their phones and oxygenos, but we can only speculate. Thanks for watching our review of the OnePlus 10 Pro, and if you like our videos, please subscribe and follow us so you don't miss out on any tech-related content. If you just purchased your new phone and are looking for a nice pair of earbuds to go along with it, do check out our channel over at AudioFight where we cover the latest audio products. Until then, see you at the next one.